she has fallen in love with someone else, and you're left with the love that's lost. Sometimes I think I can't get along this way, and sometimes I feel I can't last another day. When your eyes didn't shine as I came through the door, it told me that you didn't care anymore. Sometimes I think I can get along this way, and when her poetry written for me turns out to be for another guy, I must face the truth, though it hurts so much. Gotta keep on going with a love that's lost. Play it sad, Rick. We both work hard, there's no question of that, but it's no excuse for the love that I lack. Sometimes I feel I can't last another day. No way. Love lost like raindrops in the bay. That song, Love That's Lost, certainly can conjure up a lot of serious, deep feelings. Well, even in neurosurgery cases, there can be precarious times there when there's a fear of losing someone that's very close to you. The next story involves a 13-year-old, lovely young girl who is skipping home in Bethesda, Maryland, on Old Georgetown Road, coming home from school with her school pack on her back. She was a little girl that really spoke 7 languages. She was Italian, and there was a ballerina, and just the apple of everybody's eye. It turns out that the wheel of a Volkswagen flew off and hit her in the head. It hit her in the right side of her head and face, and she was brought to a very close hospital called Suburban Hospital in Bethesda, Maryland, on Old Georgetown Road, and I was called to see her. She was in very dire condition. Her parents came in. Parents were lovely people that worked for the State Department, and I remember telling them, "You don't know me and I don't know you, but your daughter has a very serious head injury and she needs a brain operation. I can't tell you how she's going to do, but I will say this: if you don't let me operate on her, she's not going to live. So just say yes or no." They said, "Yes, go ahead." So I went ahead and took her to surgery. And what I found was she had an open, depressed skull fracture of the right side of her head with the blood clots underneath the skull, underneath, outside of the dura mater, an epidural hematoma, a blood clot below the dura called a subdural hematoma, and blood inside her brain as well. I cleaned up everything, cleaned up the ragged edges of the scalp, cleaned up the skull fracture and lifted it out, then went ahead and took out the various blood clots, took away the debris, what we call debridement of the brain tissue that had died during the insult of the trauma, and cleaned up everything and took off all the pressure off of her brain and then closed everything. Well, she stayed in a coma, but at least she was alive. So a day or so after the operation, I transferred to Children's Hospital Medical Center in Washington, D.C., where I really prefer to do all my major pediatric neurosurgery work. Once she was over there, she remained in what's called a decerebrate coma, with her arms and legs stretched out in an extensor-like position. We had to put on plaster cast around her body and her arms and legs to keep everything from being too distorted. And she remained in this condition. Her parents were there, particularly mother, every day, and I would go to her mother and just tell her, I'm not ready to give up on your daughter. Just keep touching her, telling her you love her, and just go on like that. And this process went on for a week or 2 or 3 or 4, and there was really no change. After about 5 or 6 weeks, they decided to get a neurology consult. Well, at Children's Hospital, there was a pediatric neurologist from Harvard they asked to see him, whose name I won't mention. So he went to see the patient, and then when I came by that evening, the mother came over to me and starts beating on my chest, telling me that I told them that their daughter would be fine. I said, Mrs. So-and-so, I never said that. I said that if she were my daughter, I was not ready to give up on her. And Dr. So-and-so is a very smart doctor. He went to Harvard, and he's a very good neurologist, but I think he's wrong. So as far as I'm concerned, she's still my patient, and I want to do what I feel is best for her. That evening, I called him up, and I said, you were pretty rough with the patient's family today, weren't you? He said, Dr. Stopak, you must be off the wall or something. She's never going to be any better. This girl is going to be a vegetable. She'll never be able to do anything anymore. And I just had one of those epiphany feelings about her. And I said, you know what? I think you're wrong. As a matter of fact, I'm willing to make a bet that you're wrong. He said, oh, really? What kind of bet will you make? I said, I'd like to bet a dinner and a show at the Kennedy Center. He said, fine. I keep watching her. And for the next week or 2, she's about the same. And then one day I go by and I hear kind of a moan come out of her. And I said, she's moaning. Great, get her down to speech therapy, physical therapy, and occupational therapy, and do the works on her. We do that, and sure enough, over the next couple of weeks, she starts to make improvement, little by little, but then faster and faster. And I know darn well she's going to make it, and she's going to get better. So then finally, she does get better. And I even called the neurologist, and I said, I'd like to have a little more of a thorough neurological evaluation to check on the patient. And he didn't do it because he heard also that she was getting better. Anyway, she virtually has made a full recovery, right? The only thing, she can't do her ballet anymore. She has a slight gait disturbance that's barely noticeable, but this is a beautiful, beautiful person that grows up to graduate high school, college, speaks her languages, gets married. I was at her wedding. She has a couple children, and she's a teacher now. And what's more disconcerting, I think, is about the ego of some people. I was always upset with this particular neurologist because he never had he was never enough of a mensch. In Yiddish, that's a word that means man, to be happy that he was wrong. He never said to me, I'm glad that she got better. Never went back to the family and told them that she was so happy that she was better. And this is some of the personalities that you have to put up with as well in my profession.